So many thoughts to be thought after reading this book. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Amy. I have a book review for you guys today. I will be reviewing Fire is Your Water by Jim Minnick. If you are interested in hearing my thoughts and kind of everywhere opinions on this book, then go ahead and keep watching. Fire is Your Water is a book that is about two young people who are just trying to find their place in the world and discovering things about themselves. The female protagonist is Ada Franklin. She's about 20 years old and she is what is considered a faith healer. So she has the ability through prayer and chanting and what they call powwowing to heal people, to stop blood from flowing when there's a cut, or to remove pain from both people and animals. And at the beginning of the story, the very, very first scene is that her family's barn is on fire and her mother are trying to rescue their dairy cows. And while she's in there, she has a bit of a surreal experience, and after that experience, she is no longer able to heal. She no longer feels the tingling in her fingers that means she has the ability to heal. And the second character, the male protagonist, is Will, who is about the same age as Ada, and he's just trying to find his way in the world. He's not sure he wants to go to college, but neither is he sure that he wants to have the potential to be enlisted into the Korean War, as this book happens in the early 1950s. And while he's trying to figure all of this out and working as a gas attendant, he befriends and rescues a raven that he then names Cicero, and they develop a very special relationship. So throughout this book, Ada and Will begin to date and get to know each other, and this story is largely about them trying to reconcile their differences as well as just learning about themselves. Ada's trying to figure out why she can't heal anymore. Will's trying to decide what to do with himself. And the whole premise of this story just definitely drew me in. Another really interesting aspect about this book is there are chapters that are specifically from Cicero the Raven's point of view. They tend to be very short, and I really enjoyed them because Cicero had a fascination with words and how people use words and don't use words or neglect or are abusive with words. And I really enjoyed that dialogue and that thought process, although there are times in the middle of this book where Cicero's point of view I found to be irritating and almost not important to what the rest of the story was. So although I really did enjoy and I cared about what happened to Ada and Will, and I was really interested to see how and if they could reconcile their very big differences with the fact that Will is agnostic and Ada is a faith healer, I didn't enjoy this book. It was very much a debut novel. This is not Jim Minnick's first book. This is his first novel. He's published several nonfiction works that have been award-winning, and in doing so, I really expected this book to be very atmospheric and very rooted in what Appalachia and the Appalachian Mountains and areas would be like. It wasn't. Most of this book took place at where both Ada and Will work across the street from one another on a turnpike in the middle of nowhere. And that wasn't atmospheric for me. And I wanted to know more about the land, and Ada talks about loving her father's farmland and where her family has lived for generations, but this book just didn't transport me there, and I was really, really disappointed by that because I was really, really expecting it, especially since Jim Minnick grew up in these areas, and part of Ada and Will's relationship is based off of his parents' relationship. And I also really struggled to get on board with the whole premise idea of faith healing. I realize that this is something that people acknowledge as true and other people think is essentially a placebo effect, and I just had a really hard time how to approach it. I wasn't sure if the author was trying to make this more of a magical realism moment, presenting it as something that's just different and strange, but to accept it as truth because that's the reality of this, or if he was trying to present it as reality. And because I wasn't sure, I really, really struggled with that. And I found it very hard to get over that. I also found this book to be very lacking in fluidity. From one scene to the next, I just felt as though the author had these certain instances and moments to happen with his characters, and he just checked them off like it was a list. There was no seemingly flow to what happened between these characters and when it happened. And there were other points where there were parts of this book where big topics were approached and discussed, or big conflicts between certain characters, and it was never truly addressed again. At one point, Ada is thinking about the fact that she's a virgin and she's never experienced love, and how she may feel that she's missing out on something, but it's never again addressed. And for me, that's a rather big topic, especially for the fact that she's in a romantic relationship with another person, and it's just never ever talked about again. And so there were things that were forgotten and left unended, and I didn't enjoy that. It really left me feeling disjointed and like I've been jerked around by the story. So overall, even though I did enjoy these characters, I found them interesting and I wanted to know what happened with them, the ending was somewhat unsatisfying to me. I found it to be a bit of a cop-out in a lot of ways, and this whole element of fire that plays a role throughout this whole story just seemed really forced to me. Throughout the story, Minnick references some really important spiritual literature and poetry that all just seem too posed and perfect for me, and in a lot of ways I feel like there were issues unresolved. So I gave it 2 out of 5 stars because I did care what happened to Ada and Franklin, and I found Cicero's relationship with Will and his relationship with words to be very amazing, but I don't think I would recommend this book, you guys. It's very, very problematic. The few good things about it are just not enough for me to recommend that you spend the time to read this book. Although, if Minnick comes out with another book, I would like to give it another shot because I think the storyline and plot is very interesting. It just wasn't as executed well. So if you guys have read this book, let me know what your thoughts were. I'd love to chat about it, or if you plan to read it because it just sounds like your perfect book, let me know that too. So if you liked this video, please like it, and if you loved it, please subscribe, and we will see you in my next video. Happy reading!